All right, I'm going to go ahead and ask my Honduras mission trip folks to come on up and take their seats. And good morning. Good morning. Hope everybody's doing real well. I'm going to sit right here and ask questions and let them visit with you guys a little this morning. But before and while they're gathering here, if you would, go ahead and play the slides and have some pictures. So this group just went a few weeks ago. Jared went with them, but Jared wanted the focus to be on this group today since he gets to be up here often himself. And if you look at these pictures, you can just see all kinds of different faces and all kinds of different activities that each of these was involved in. In my sermon today, and yes, there is going to eventually be a sermon today, so don't even look at your watches. You'll be fine. You'll be all right. I promise you'll get to eat dinner. And so, what I want to do is allow this group to visit with you a little bit about what they encountered in Honduras. Before I do, I want to ask, how many of you have been on a mission trip somewhere at some age, at some point in your life? I want you to think about that memory and what that meant to be in that place. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with you guys, and you all have 2 microphones to share. And James, you'll get it from Kyle whenever time comes if you need to talk. But we'll start with this question. How did your day-to-day routine change when you went to Honduras for this mission trip? What did that day-to-day routine, how did it change?
It changed significantly for me. I didn't have Diane there each morning asking me what my day was going to be. However, I did have Jared, and I must thank Jared. Where is Jared? The guy was everywhere. He was doing devotionals, he was doing the work. He was bothering me with texts, wanting to know if I was out of bed. I for the first time, know what it feels like to be part of the youth group here. And now Jared probably treated you guys. But he was great. He kept us on track. He set up everything for the trip, and it was phenomenal. One other small change in my routine was I had to get up at 4:30. To get ready to catch a bus to go out to do some work, but that was okay. But I did want to thank Jared for the really inspirational part that he played in all of this.
All right. And one other of you, if you want to answer that same question. Not everybody all at once.
I don't know, I was going to say something about, at home you're pretty much at your own schedule. You get up when you want to, depending on if you're working or not, and everything's focused on you. And on this mission trip, your day is completely focused on others. You're part of a group, but you're a very important part of the group. And so if you don't show up, some of the group hurts, the mission hurts. So that was eye-opening for me, is that you're a bigger part. You're a small part of a very big mission, and it's important for you to show up, be on time, and be important every day, all day long.
Thank you. All right, so the next question is, what impact did your surroundings there in Honduras, what impact did those surroundings have on you?
The surroundings were absolutely beautiful. The clinic that we did was in a rural area, beautiful mountainous surroundings, the country all around. There was a lot of poverty there. It was evident as you rode the bus for an hour and a half every day to get to where you were going. But the pace was much slower and less rushed. And you had time to stop and just enjoy the beauty of the surroundings and to be grateful and to be thankful. And I think the surroundings of being a part of the group that Monica just alluded to, this Mission Upreach and the whole group, they told us from the beginning and then reminded us every day that our goal was to try to be the hands and feet of Jesus every day. And it seemed like when you were surrounded by people all day who were trying to do the same thing as you were, to be the hands and feet of Jesus, it was easier to keep your focus on what it should be and to share with others.
How did your interactions with others affect you? Maybe think of an anecdote or circumstance, one of you. How did your interactions with others affect you?
I get the kind of the difference was that you're part of a group 24/7 while you're there. That's everybody's like-minded, as everybody's one, and with a like-minded goal. And so you're really affected by that. Other people are really on fire for the mission, for the Lord, for the work, and that is contagious. And so you really, I really found myself kind of rising, others bringing me up to their level of excitement or fire that they have, or the passion they have for the mission and for the work, not just for practicing medicine, but passion for sharing Jesus or showing Jesus to others. And so I would say that's how working with a group like this really affected me. And then kind of on another level, just the response of the people that we're serving and just how gracious they are, how appreciative they are, and for them, responding so often with God bless you, thank you so much. That encourages me and just lifts me up as well. So.
How did you see your attitudes towards adversity, challenges that came up? Those could be physical, because that always seems to happen in Honduras, or other kinds of adversity that you have. How did your attitudes towards that adversity change in the surroundings where you were?
Well, early on, the first couple of days were really actually kind of rough. This was our first time to ever travel international, and I never knew how much stress was involved just to get on an airplane and what paperwork had to be required just to get into a country. Then you had to do more just to get out. It was rather stressful at first. Long drive down to Houston and a long air flight to Honduras. One of the great things about that was there was a long bus ride that we were told was 3 hours. It turned in to be about 5.5 or 6 hours because there was a traffic accident or a vehicle breakdown. And the amazing thing about the group, there were 40 plus people. We never heard anybody complain about that bus ride. But for those of us who were there for the first time realized that we were there when we turned onto the narrow road to the hotel, the people in the back started cheering and yelling. So you knew the ride wasn't much farther because I still had no idea where I was. And by this time it was dark. As far as the adversity, and I'll be brief, I'll hurry up and quit here, is a very humbling experience to ride a bus for an hour and a half, to see that once we got into the rural area, and even within the town, the mode of transportation to a lot of people was walking. If you were fortunate, you had a motorcycle. You would see the pleasure of the children that anytime we went by any area where the children were dressed in their uniform ready to go to school, they would wave to a complete stranger and you would wave back. People would come to the clinic that we were told would walk an hour to an hour and a half just to come to the clinic to get a modicum of treatment. And another amazing thing is these people would dress up. Not all of them, but those that could would dress up as if they were going to a wedding or some special event to sit out in the hot sun in an unair-conditioned area. And I'll just quit with that. I could talk for a long time, but I'm not going to.
And the last question, which I'd love to hear from a couple of you. How did your attitude towards your home surroundings change by being there for that time?
A lot of things became much less important to me. I mean, when we were talking through these questions last night, I just kept looking around and thinking, I don't need that. You know, just things that we accumulate somehow and just don't need. So trying to focus on what is important that I do have in my home and getting rid of the less important and just the clutter and the stuff that just don't make any difference.
It was a beautiful place, but as was mentioned, a lot of poverty. It's one of the poorest places in the world, and when we come back to where we live with what we have, you're appreciative, and that was a bit of it. But I have done a fair amount of international travel, and so that in and of itself was not new. What impacted me, and it's been alluded to, these are the sweetest people I've ever met. The kids, the older people that were coming for these services were happy to be there. And not just appreciative, they are sweet and kind. You can see it in their face, not just the kids, the older people as well. And that in and of itself made this trip totally worthwhile. And it was eye-opening for me.
I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with a lot of the people because the pharmacy was inside a classroom at this schoolhouse. So we did not have any direct interaction. The translators would give the medicine to them because we wouldn't have been able to communicate with them anyway. And every adult got a pair of sunglasses. Every child got a pair of sunglasses and some toy. And there were some young boys. We've been told that, music is the universal language. There were some boys who were waiting on, I believe, just their parents or their grandparents to be seen, were peeking into the pharmacy there where we had the thing set up, and there was a table full of toy race cars. And I believe that race cars are also a universal language for young boys in an impoverished area that you can see. And they got some before we were supposed to even give them out. In addition, and some of them tried to come back and trade them because they thought they might find a better one, and we even let them do that. So they were just thrilled to see that. And the first day that I got there, the school was letting out. Some little boy came up, we got off the bus, hugged me on the leg, and I looked up there. There were two others that they were just jealous as can be. I've got to get a hug too, and they came approaching me and just wanted a hug. So the feeling of touch that they needed was impressive. And we shouldn't have any issues about being frustrated if the line at Starbucks is too long, or we had to sit through that traffic light twice. Because they deal with lots of adversity, and there were smiles everywhere.
All right. Well, if y'all would express your appreciation for them doing. Mission requires a reset of sorts, as you heard, for our daily processes. For some of you, you like a certain routine in the morning. You have a a quiet time you like to yourself. You don't want to people until you've coffeeed, right? You don't want to do. And yet, you've got to get up at 4:30 to be at a bus. You've got to be yourself, or at least Jesus, right? As much as you can on that mission, for that mission. And I love what was said by Monica. If you're not there, if you don't show that day, the impact that had. What I want to do just for a few minutes this morning, and I promise it'll be just for a few minutes, is I want to tell you about something, I don't know, just I thought had an application that kept coming back to me. Computers were always in my house. My brother brought a Commodore PET into our home, and it was one of the few pets that was allowed in the house. And this Commodore PET had all these different things you could do with it and program it, kind of with that old basic programming, but it was very limited. Had a cassette deck to keep its storage on. Years later, my other brother gave me my first laptop computer. I was incredibly happy to have this laptop computer. I used it for everything. And that laptop had a half a gig of a hard drive. And for those of you that know anything about computers, that's not much. Okay? And this all of a sudden had some challenges for me as time went on. I learned that Windows came out like in 1985, Microsoft Windows. And this computer, when 1995 hit in August and everybody was updating to Windows 95, a long time ago. I wanted to update this computer, and my brother said, "You can't." I said, "Why not?" He said, "It doesn't have enough memory." I said, "What do you mean?" I don't know what that means. He said, "You can't put the operating system that you want to use on that computer." Apparently, the windows on that computer actually had sash weights that kept the window up. Some of you get that. That's okay. But the reality was I couldn't even put an operating system on that computer that I wanted to. And so if I can just tell you what you didn't even need to know maybe about an operating system is loaded onto the hardware of a computer, and that operating system becomes the structure onto which all the software that does apps and all kinds of other things works. And for us this morning, I want us to think about this and see if it helps this week. What we often do as people is we load our computer, our hardware, with the operating system of the world. And that operating system becomes a structure onto which we load every other app and every other piece of software that we encounter in our life. And we filter everything into that operating system. And we just keep loading things on and loading things on and loading things on. If you've got a phone and you can just scroll through apps after apps after apps. And what we do, if we're not careful, is in our spiritual life, we download a Jesus app. And we have our operating system, we have our way of doing things, we have all of our structure in life. But then we have a Jesus app that we can open. And when we open the Jesus app, it allows us to interact, kind of like the cardiologist here talked about that had the name tag on and went to the burger shop. We can interact, act as long as we interact. That's a new word. Interact. We can interact with people as long as we have the Jesus app open. We can interact in ways that are contextualized for our surroundings. And I fear that for some of us, and a lot of us at all kinds of different times, we just operate in one system. And then we open the Jesus app, use it like we would our mail app or our Facebook or all of these other things, and we use it, we work with it, and then we close the app, and we go about the rest of our life. And when circumstances happen, we might remind ourselves, oh wait, I think maybe there's an app for that. Maybe I need to open my Jesus app and deal with that situation. And then I can close that app and go on back. For a lot of people in life though, I think it's that maybe we just show up on Sunday morning and we click on an attachment that comes and we just put the file that opens when we click on the attachment, and that file, and it just ends up in our downloads folder, never to be seen or heard from again. And if you take this analogy further, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that we are called not to just open an attachment on a Sunday morning, not to just open an app in our life and keep things in their place, but we're called to a new operating system. Just like in Honduras, when you go there, your entire structure, you realize, is challenged. All your way of doing things. We are called, if we are Christians, to have a whole new operating system. Months ago, when I was teaching on the 23rd Psalm, I said, I love the 23rd Psalm in the King James because it says he refreshes my soul. And I think about that in computer terms. And I think, what would it mean for God to refresh our operating system? What would it mean for God to reset our operating system? And I'll tell you that I think that's exactly the image that we're supposed to get. That when we are made new in Christ, when we become this new humanity that we're talking about in the study of Ephesians, we are supposed to have an all-new operating system. Not software, not just a file. And so I've entitled the sermon today, Cross OS, kind of like iOS for, your phone. But the cross is our operating system. And here's what I would say as I finish this thought. The cross OS, the operating system we're called to as Christians, is the only operating system that's designed specifically for the new humanity we are resurrected to be. It's the only one. Everything else is of the world. It's outside. But when we are made new, when we become a new creation in Christ, we're not just given a downloadable part of our life. We're given a new life with a new structure and a new way of being. And the fact of the matter is, computers do get viruses, right? There is malware. There's all these things that come at us. And if we were to do what you shouldn't do ever in a sermon and just keep taking this analogy further for 2 more minutes, I'd say we have all kinds of things that come at us that challenge our operating system, that put us in a bind. And at times we might see that life and adversity and struggles and bus rides and traffic and accidents and everything else keeps us from functioning the way we should. But if we expose ourselves to the light, because he is in the light, then our operating system is continually rebooted. The fact of the matter is, Cross OS is designed never to crash, or more specifically, to withstand any crash and reboot. You all know about the blue screen of death? Everybody worries about it, right? It's the worst thing that can happen, that blue screen of death. The cross operating system is, its symbol could be the screen of death. And the image is the cross of Calvary. There is nothing that can truly happen to our lives if we have God at the center of it, and the cross as how we operate in life. So I wish I could tell you this was something you could just buy, but it's already paid for. I wish I could say, maybe this gimmick, maybe that it won't stick with you for the week, but it stuck with me for months, and I told Jared, I just feel like it has to preach. But this week, I want you to ask yourself, am I operating just like everybody else around me that's not, as Mike says, not one of the 1 out of 5 in Lamar County? Except for that time that I open up that app in my mind and I use Jesus for a bit to get me out of the bind. Or are we transformed? I'm going to close with the words of Paul in Romans 12, and I want to hear it in Eugene Peterson's message, and it's paraphrased. Here's Romans 12. So here's what I want you to do, God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary life. You're sleeping, you're eating, you're going to work and walking around life. And place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for Him. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize what He wants from you and quickly respond to it. Unlike the culture around you always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings out the best out of you and develops well-formed maturity in you. You hopefully heard the other translation that we're more commonly used to in that, where we're told by Paul, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. If you've gone on a mission trip, you've been placed in a circumstance where you realize you're the other. You're the stranger. You're the outsider. And you actually, as a part of just being able to function, are transformed in that time to be much more like all of those with you that are on that same mission. It's no wonder that mission trips are so transformational. But the reality is, when you get home, you're still other. You're still different. You're still on mission. And your whole way of life ought to be one life. One life, unified and conformed, not to this world, but to the cross of Christ. If I was doing a sales pitch, I'd say, if you need this operating system, I promise you, your hardware is built for it. And God wants you to have it. If you need anything, we'd ask you to come and we'll pray with you. If you want to come after the song and the last prayer, come in. If we can be of help in any way, let's stand and sing.